This was originally going to be a video about testing out Resident Evil 4, and it started out, I was doing my testing. Here's the game at max settings, 1440p, on an RTX 3070 Ti. Now, notice that the game here says that it needs 14 gigabytes of VRAM at these settings. And some games say they need more than they really do, so I figured, let's go ahead and start up the game. And it starts loading in, figure there's no big deal or anything, and you start up here, and this is consistent behavior, it just crashes. So the game crashes, gives you this error, a fatal D3D error, every single time that I try and run the game with too much VRAM enabled. And that's a bit of a shame because the RTX 3070 Ti is a powerful enough GPU that if it wasn't running out of VRAM and crashing, it could actually run this game completely maxed out at 1440p with no issues, even including the ray tracing, no upscaling required. Here's what I mean. Let's hop back in here and let's turn down the texture quality. So texture quality tends to be the biggest VRAM hog, although other settings and increasing the resolution also use VRAM. But here, as we scroll this back, watch the image here. It actually shows you how the textures get worse, but also watch the graphics memory estimation. By the way, I really like the menu in this. As far as, it shows you what things do and it shows you the impact they have to various types of performance. But let's bring it down to where it says that we're probably, it's still giving us a red warning, but we're probably okay to at least launch the game. And then let's back out and open it back up, load in, and I think we can actually run the game now without it crashing. Unfortunately, though, if you guys look at these textures, you can just tell these are not super detailed textures, which is a little bit annoying. And then also I don't know why I was using a controller. I think I just had a controller plugged in a different game I was playing. But anyway, that's a whole other issue. You know what? Let's go this way. I think there might be combat happening in that direction. Because look at the overall performance of the game here. I'm actually going to start up a benchmark so we can see the average frame rates and the 1% lows. You can see the frame time graph. Everything is absolutely fine. And this is every single setting, including ray tracing, maxed out at native 1440p. The only thing I had to turn down was textures, but textures are annoying when you look at them and they're definitely a lower resolution. In other words, this is a frustrating situation where the graphics card is powerful enough to run this game completely maxed out at 80 FPS average here. And texture resolution doesn't usually have much impact on performance at all until you run out. This is the unfortunate situation where we're seeing it has ran out, okay? So that's what we're seeing here, and it is really sad to see it. Now, to prove to you that it really is the VRAM capacity that was the problem, watch what happens as we bring it back up. So it's starting to give us, you see in this particular scene, it's measuring where we're at here. By the way, notice that matches up pretty well with what I'm seeing in my MSI Afterburner report. What you see here in Afterburner is this one is the allocated memory, but this is the per process usage, which is matching up more to what the game's actually, using. But as we bring this up, you can see right here, the game's gonna crash. So as soon as I get past where the game, where the GPU is, the game actually crashes. And like I said, this is really, really frustrating because the GPU itself was fast enough to max out this game at 1440p, high refresh rate with no issues if it just had more VRAM. And it's, frustrating to see that it doesn't have the VRAM to take advantage of its full potential. Now, there are other games where we have seen problems with VRAM, but I've got to say this is the worst one that I have personally tested out. And it's really unfortunate that we're seeing this. But let's look at some other games where I've seen this issue. Well, I also just kind of run around in this game and talk at you. I'll probably edit in some tested footage while I'm talking. So I've also seen an issue in Hogwarts Legacy when it launched, where I was testing my 3060 Ti, which once again has 8 gigabytes of memory, and I was testing it up against my my 6700 XT, which has 12 gigabytes of memory, but other than that, they usually perform about the same. And they were both able to get about 60 FPS at 1440p Ultra, with the problem being that the 3060 Ti would randomly dip to around 30 FPS. It would stutter and it would recover in certain scenes. And that was definitely the VRAM spilling over. Now you could bring down settings again, or control, you upscale, which runs at a lower resolution, brings down the VRAM a little bit, and you could get under control. But it was knowing that I had to deal with this. Now today I've actually tested that out again on the 3070 Ti, and I was not able to repeat the problem. And I think that the game has actually had some patches to help control the memory usage a little bit. Which is a good thing. So at least we have that. Now, another game that I hadn't actually tested out much myself, but I'd seen people saying that VRAM is an issue in Forspoken. So I went ahead and ran the Forspoken benchmark on the 3070 Ti, and I set it to the maximum settings, 1440p, ran the benchmark, and then I also just adjusted the texture quality to low, and then I ran the benchmark again. And you could see a big difference, not just in overall performance, but also in certain areas where there would be big stutters with the highest texture settings, where we didn't get those stutters on the lower texture settings. So once again, it's a clear indication that the 3070 Ti is being held back by its VRAM capacity, even though the GPU is strong enough to play the game. So again, very unfortunate to see it with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Now, these were the games, Hogwarts Legacy and Forspoken and Resident Evil 4, where it's been most obvious in my testing, although I'm sure there are others. Although I do want to mention that in the vast majority of games that I test on this channel, including recent ones, the 8 gigabytes of VRAM really hasn't been too much of a problem. But I would expect that this issue will continue to get worse, not better, over time. And so I think this is lending credence to the people who thought, the longevity of the 3070 Ti could be a bit of a question mark with that 8 gigabyte of VRAM capacity. So certainly something to think about. Now, in general, the 3060, if we think about specific video cards, the 3070 Ti is the most extreme example. It's the fastest card with such bad VRAM capacity, right? On a card like a 3060 Ti, which you might be targeting more at 1080p, I think at the lower resolutions, VRAM capacity is less of an issue. So there is that. It's just definitely something to consider, and I wish that we didn't have to consider this, on these GPUs. So I know a lot of people ask about the VRAM capacity in my videos, and is it causing a problem in games? Well, here we go. Let's go ahead and kick up these textures one last time to end the video. And as soon as we go up to 2 gigabytes of texture, once again, the game has predictably crashed. I hope all of you have an excellent day.